Lily stepped off the bus, gripping the small note in her hand. The city around her was buzzing, cars honking, people rushing past, voices blending into a chaotic hum, but she wasn't paying attention to any of it. Her heart was set on one thing: the dress. The perfect dress for tonight. She glanced at the address again. La Vogue Boutique. It wasn't the kind of store she usually shopped at. The glass windows gleamed under the golden sunlight, showcasing mannequins draped in elegant, expensive gowns. Dresses that belonged to women who walked with effortless grace, who knew exactly where they fit in this world. Lily swallowed, adjusting the strap of her bag on her shoulder. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe she should just turn around, go home and find something in her closet. But then she remembered why she was here. The Art and Hope Gala. She had been invited, not as a guest, but as an artist. One of her paintings had been chosen to be displayed at the event, a moment she had dreamed of her entire life. She had spent years sketching in the quiet corners of her college campus, painting late into the night, hoping, just hoping, that one day someone would see her work and say, "This belongs here." And now that moment had come. She wasn't going to let doubt steal it from her. Taking a deep breath, she pushed open the glass door. A soft chime rang through the air. The boutique was silent, except for the faint sound of classical music playing in the background. Everything smelled of fresh fabric and expensive perfume. She ran her fingers over the rows of silk, lace and velvet, her eyes scanning for something simple yet stunning. And then, there it was, a deep red dress hanging on the center display. It was the kind of dress that made a statement without trying too hard. It didn't scream for attention, but it commanded it. Her fingers brushed against the fabric, smooth, delicate, perfect. "Excuse me," a voice cut through the silence. Lily turned. Two girls stood by the entrance watching her, Jessica and Lauren. She knew them. Not as friends, not as enemies, but as shadows that lurked in the background of her life, girls who never had to question whether they belonged. Jessica smirked, crossing her arms. "Didn't expect to see you here, Lily." Lauren tilted her head, pretending to study the dress. "Red's a bold choice, not exactly subtle." Lily's grip on the fabric tightened. She forced a smile, keeping her voice steady. "I think it'll be perfect for the gala." Jessica's smirk widened. "Oh, you're actually going?" Lauren let out a small laugh. "That's brave." Lily felt her stomach twist, but she refused to let it show. She had spent years pretending not to hear the whispers, the comments, the sideways glances. But tonight wasn't about them. It was about her. She lifted the dress off the rack, holding it close. "Yeah, I am." Jessica and Lauren exchanged a glance, their amusement flickering into something else, something sharp. "Well," Jessica said, stepping closer, "I hope you're ready, because people are going to be watching." And with that, they turned and walked away, their laughter trailing behind them. Lily exhaled, gripping the dress a little tighter. She didn't need their approval. She never had. But as she walked toward the fitting room, she couldn't shake the feeling that tonight was going to be more than just a gala. It was going to be a test. And she was ready. Lily stepped into the fitting room and pulled the curtain shut behind her. The space was small, with bright white lights and a full-length mirror reflecting her nervous expression. She took a deep breath, running her fingers over the smooth red fabric of the dress. This was it. The dress that would make her feel like she belonged. She unzipped her jacket, letting it slide off her shoulders. As she reached for the hem of her sweater, she heard it. Whispers, low hushed voices just outside the curtain. Does she actually think she can pull that off? Lily froze. That dress deserves someone with confidence, another voice sneered. Not someone who looks like that. Jessica, Lauren. Lily's stomach twisted. She had been through this before, hearing whispers in the hallways, at parties, in classrooms. She knew their routine. They never said things directly to her face. Always just loud enough for her to hear, but quiet enough to pretend it wasn't meant for her. She closed her eyes for a second, gripping the dress tighter. Not this time. Lily yanked the curtain open. Jessica and Lauren stood outside, their arms crossed, smirks plastered on their faces. Jessica blinked in mock surprise. "Oh, didn't know you were listening." Lily held up the dress. "I heard you just fine." Lauren leaned against the fitting room wall. "Relax. We're just giving friendly advice." Lily squared her shoulders. "Is that what you call it?" Jessica sighed, tilting her head. "Look, Lily, we're just being real with you. The gala is exclusive. People notice things. The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you try too hard to fit in." Lauren smirked. "It's not a bad thing, really. Some people just aren't meant for that kind of event." Lily's grip tightened around the fabric. Her mind was screaming at her to walk away, to pretend she didn't care. But deep down, something inside her was done being quiet. Jessica's eyes flicked to the dress. "And that? It's just not you." Lily met her gaze. "You're right." Jessica's smirk deepened, satisfied. "See? That's all we're saying." "But," Lily continued, lifting the dress slightly, "maybe that's the point." Jessica's smile faltered. Lily stepped forward, her voice steady. "Maybe I don't want to wear what people like me are expected to wear. Maybe I don't want to disappear into the background just because it makes you more comfortable." Lauren let out a small laugh. "Wow, someone's feisty today." Jessica folded her arms. "Fine, do what you want, but don't say we didn't warn you." Lily stepped back into the fitting room and closed the curtain. Her hands trembled as she unzipped the dress and stepped into it. The fabric hugged her perfectly, soft against her skin. She turned to the mirror, and for the first time in a long time, she saw herself. She wasn't invisible. She wasn't someone to be pitied. She was just Lily, and that was enough. As she reached for the zipper, a new voice cut through the boutique. Deep, calm, and unmistakable. "Is there a problem here?" Lily's heart stopped. That voice, it couldn't be. She turned, her breath catching in her throat. Outside the fitting room, standing just a few feet away, hands in his pockets, eyes sharp and unreadable, was Keanu Reeves. The air inside the boutique shifted. The usual soft hum of conversations and the rustling of fabric vanished into silence. Jessica and Lauren stood frozen, their expressions flickering between confusion and disbelief. Keanu Reeves didn't move. His posture was relaxed, hands still in his pockets, but his gaze was locked on them, calm, observant, unshaken. Lily, still holding the edges of the dress, felt her pulse hammering in her ears. Was this really happening? Jessica was the first to recover, flipping her hair over her shoulder with a forced laugh. "Oh my God, you're Keanu Reeves." Keanu tilted his head slightly, his eyes never leaving theirs. "And you are." Lauren stepped forward, the confidence in her voice laced with nervous energy. "We were just, helping our friend Lily here, giving her some advice." Lily swallowed hard. "Friend?" Keanu's gaze flickered toward her for the briefest moment, as if reading everything she wasn't saying. Then back to Jessica and Lauren. "Advice?" His voice was smooth, but there was something unreadable beneath it. Jessica quickly nodded. "Yeah, I mean, the gala she's going to, it has a certain standard. We wouldn't want her to feel..." She paused, searching for the right words. "Out of place." Keanu let out a slow breath, almost like a sigh. Then he took a step forward. Not aggressive, not intimidating, just closer. "Out of place," he repeated like he was testing the words. Lauren folded her arms. "Look, we weren't being mean. We're just honest. Not everyone fits everywhere, right?" Keanu tilted his head slightly, a ghost of something, maybe disappointment, flickering in his expression. "You know, I've heard that before." Jessica blinked. "You have?" His jaw tensed just a little. "Yeah." His voice was quiet, but firm. "I've walked into rooms where people already decided who I was before I even spoke. been told where I didn't belong, judged for things that had nothing to do with me. Lauren shifted uncomfortably. Well, yeah, but I mean, that's different. Keanu's brows lifted slightly. Is it? Jessica hesitated. I mean, you're Keanu Reeves. He let out a soft chuckle, shaking his head. You see, that's the thing. People didn't always see me that way. There was a time when I was just a guy trying to be seen, just like her. He nodded toward Lily. Lily's breath hitched. Jessica glanced at her, then back at him. Look, this is getting blown way out of proportion. We weren't trying to be bad people or anything. Keanu nodded, as if considering her words. Then he asked, tell me something. If she were someone else, someone you expected to be at that gala, would you have said anything at all? The boutique was silent. Jessica opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Lauren shifted again. She trailed off. Keanu didn't push. He didn't need to. The weight of his words had already landed. After a long pause, he sighed. You think you're doing her a favor. His voice was quiet now. But the truth is you're just afraid. Jessica's head snapped up. Afraid. His eyes didn't waver. Afraid of what happens when someone you didn't expect to shine actually does. The silence was suffocating. Jessica clenched her jaw. Lauren looked away. And Lily felt something inside her shift. For years she had carried the weight of their whispers, their backhanded comments, their dismissive glances. She had learned to swallow her words, to lower her gaze, to pretend it didn't bother her. But now, standing in this boutique, watching the two girls, speechless, exposed, unraveling, she realized something. She didn't need their approval. She never had. Jessica's lips parted slightly, like she wanted to say something, but she turned instead, abruptly, stiffly, grabbing Lauren's wrist. Come on, she muttered. And just like that, they were gone. The boutique felt lighter. Lily exhaled, not realizing she had been holding her breath. She turned to Keanu, who was watching her with an unreadable expression. You okay? He asked. She swallowed, nodding. Yeah, I think so. He nodded back as if he already knew. Good. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Keanu glanced at the dress still in her hands. You should get that one. Lily blinked. You think so? A small smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Yeah, I think you're going to look great tonight. And just like that, everything felt different. Lily wasn't just going to that gala, she was going to own it. The boutique door swung shut behind Lily, but the moment still lingered in the air like an echo. She clutched the shopping bag tight against her chest, her heart racing, not from fear, not from anxiety, but from something else, something stronger. She had faced Jessica and Lauren before, but this time was different. This time, she hadn't let their words define her. And Keanu Reeves had been there to witness it, to back her up. As she stepped onto the sidewalk, the cool evening air brushed against her skin. The city lights flickered, car horns blared in the distance, and for the first time in a long time, she felt free. But freedom was fleeting. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and immediately her stomach twisted. A text from unknown number. Hope you're ready for tonight. People will be watching. A cold shiver ran down her spine. She didn't need to guess who it was from. Jessica. Lily inhaled sharply, staring at the message. She could almost hear Jessica's voice, dripping with that fake sweetness, masking the venom beneath. Hope you're ready. For what? A setup? Another public humiliation? A last-ditch attempt to remind Lily of her place? Her grip on the phone tightened. Number not this time. She squared her shoulders, turned on her heel, and walked toward the street where her ride was waiting. She wasn't backing down. Not now. Not when she had something to prove. The gala was unlike anything Lily had ever seen. Golden chandeliers bathed the ballroom in soft, warm light. Men in crisp tuxedos and women in flowing gowns glided across the polished floor. their laughter and conversation blending into a symphony of elegance. Waiters moved between them, trays of champagne flutes balanced effortlessly on their hands. And then there was Lily. She stood at the entrance, the red dress hugging her figure perfectly, her hair styled in loose waves. She had spent hours getting ready, but for once it wasn't about hiding her flaws. It was about owning them. She stepped inside, head held high, eyes turned toward her, some subtle, some obvious, a few whispers. She forced herself to keep walking. She didn't belong in the background anymore. She was here, and they would see her. Then, a familiar voice. "I can't believe she actually showed up." Lily's pulse quickened. She turned, already knowing what she would find. Jessica and Lauren stood near the main table, wine glasses in hand, eyes scanning her up and down. Jessica had a sharp smile, the kind that wasn't really a smile at all. Lauren leaned in, whispering something in her ear. Jessica laughed softly before taking a slow sip of her drink. Lily clenched her jaw. She wouldn't react. She wouldn't let them win. She took a step forward and then... click. A camera flash. Lily's stomach dropped. She turned just in time to see Jessica lowering her phone. A sly smirk tugged at the corner of her lips. "You don't mind, do you? Just wanted to capture the moment." Lily's hands curled into fists at her sides. "What are you doing?" Jessica feigned innocence. "Oh, nothing. Just making sure everyone remembers this night." Lauren let out a small, cruel laugh. "You know, just in case they don't already." Lily's breath came out unsteady. This wasn't just casual bullying anymore. This was calculated. Jessica wasn't just trying to embarrass her. She was setting her up. Lily's mind raced. What was the plan? What were they going to do with that photo? And then Jessica leaned in, lowering her voice so only Lily could hear. "You really think you belong here, don't you?" Lily didn't flinch. "I know I do." Jessica's smirk widened. "Well, let's see if everyone else agrees." Lily's heart pounded as Jessica took another sip of wine, her eyes gleaming with something dangerous. Whatever she had planned, it wasn't over, not yet. Lily could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her, the way Jessica and Lauren stood there, smiling like they had already won, like they knew something she didn't. She wouldn't let them see her doubt. Without breaking eye contact, she took a slow breath and reached for a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. If they wanted her to feel small, uncomfortable, out of place, they were going to be disappointed. She wasn't the same girl they used to whisper about in the hallways. She raised the glass to her lips, letting a small, confident smile tug at the corners of her mouth. "Go ahead, Jessica," she said, her voice steady. "Whatever little game you're playing tonight, let's just get to it." Jessica's smirk didn't falter. In fact, it deepened. "Oh, Lily," she sighed dramatically, placing a hand over her chest. "You make it sound so... sinister." Lauren chuckled. "We're just having fun." But Lily wasn't an idiot. The photo, the way Jessica had spoken, the way they kept exchanging glances like they were waiting for something. Something was coming. And then, right on cue, a sudden hush fell over the room. The murmurs began. Low at first, then building. Guests turning, looking around, confused. Lily's stomach dropped. Something was happening. And then, a voice rang out from across the ballroom, loud, clear, smug. "Ladies and gentlemen, I think we need to acknowledge someone special tonight. Jessica." Lily turned sharply, her blood running cold. Jessica stood near the stage now, a microphone in hand. She moved like she owned the room, like she had been planning this moment all night. Next to her, a giant screen flickered to life. Lily's breath caught. Her picture, the one Jessica had just taken, blown up for the entire gala to see. Whispers filled the air. Jessica smiled, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Everyone, this is Lily. She's here tonight because she believes she belongs among the best and brightest in the art world." A pause, just long enough to make the silence feel dangerous. Jessica turned back to the crowd, letting out a soft, almost pitying laugh. I mean, isn't that just inspiring? Lily's chest tightened. This wasn't just humiliation. Jessica was making a joke out of her, turning her presence into some kind of spectacle. The whispers around her grew louder. Some people looked confused, others uncomfortable, but some were smiling, like they got the joke, like they agreed. Lauren, standing off to the side, grinned. Lily's hands trembled. Not again, not this time. She forced herself to take a step forward, to say something, anything. But before she could, another voice cut through the tension, calm, deep, unshaken. That's enough. The entire room froze. Lily turned. Keanu Reeves. He stood near the center of the ballroom, his gaze locked onto Jessica, unblinking. For a moment, the entire room seemed to hold its breath. Jessica hesitated, caught off guard, but only for a second. Then, she let out a breathy laugh, feigning innocence. "Oh wow, Mr. Reeves. I didn't realize you were..." Keanu took a slow step forward. Jessica stopped talking. The way he moved, the way he looked at her, it wasn't anger. It wasn't rage. It was something worse. Disappointment. And Jessica felt it. The entire room did. Keanu glanced at the screen, then back at Jessica. "You must be really insecure," he said, his voice smooth, almost casual. "To need an entire audience just to feel powerful." A sharp silence followed. Jessica's smile cracked. Lauren shifted uncomfortably. Keanu didn't stop. "What were you hoping for?" he asked, his tone quiet but firm. "That she'd run out of here crying? That everyone would laugh with you?" He let the words sink in, then tilted his head. "Or were you just hoping you'd still matter for 5 more minutes?" A murmur rippled through the crowd. Jessica's face flushed. "That's not..." But Keanu had already turned his attention to the audience now. "Since we're acknowledging people tonight," he said, looking around, "let's acknowledge something real." He gestured toward Lily. "This is an artist, a talented one. She was invited here because of her work, because of her talent, because she earned it." The whispers in the crowd shifted, changed. Keanu's voice remained steady. "And some people in this room might be uncomfortable with that, because it challenges what they thought they knew." Jessica clenched her jaw. Keanu ignored her. He looked at Lily now, directly. No hesitation. "But none of that matters, does it?" Lily's throat tightened. She knew what he was doing. He wasn't saving her. He was giving her the floor, and she wasn't going to waste it. She turned to Jessica, who for the first time looked uncertain. Lily took a slow, deep breath. Then she stepped forward. "You said you wanted people to remember this night," she said, her voice steady, unwavering. "And they will." Jessica frowned. "Excuse me?" Lily didn't flinch. "They'll remember how desperate you were to bring me down, how much effort you put into making sure I didn't belong here." She tilted her head. "And they'll remember that it didn't work." Jessica stilled. The weight of Lily's words, the truth of them, hit harder than anything else ever could. Lily smiled. "You were right about one thing, though." She glanced at the screen where her picture still hung. "People are watching." Jessica didn't have a comeback. She turned stiffly, muttered something under her breath, and stormed off, Lauren scurrying behind her like a shadow. The tension in the room broke. A slow clap started, then another, and suddenly, the entire room was applauding. Lily's chest felt lighter. She turned to Keanu, who gave her the smallest, knowing nod. "You handled that well," he murmured. Lily exhaled a shaky breath, a smile forming on her lips. "I had a good example." Keanu chuckled. "You didn't need me for that. And maybe, just maybe." He was right. The applause still echoed in Lily's ears as she stepped away from the center of the ballroom. The weight she had carried for so long, the whispers, the stares, the self-doubt, felt lighter. Maybe it wasn't completely gone, but for the first time, it didn't feel like it controlled her. She had stood her ground. She had won. Jessica was nowhere to be seen. The girl who had spent years making sure Lily felt small had just been reduced to a footnote in her story. And Lauren? She had followed right behind her, fading into the background where she had always belonged. Lily exhaled, letting herself take it all in. The room had changed. People who had stared at her in doubt were now watching with admiration. Some were even nodding, murmuring to each other, as if suddenly realizing what had just happened. She belonged here. And now they knew it too. A familiar voice pulled her out of her thoughts. "You know," Keanu said beside her, a small smirk tugging at his lips. "If I ever need a lawyer, I think I'm calling you." Lily let out a breathy laugh, shaking her head. "I didn't even know I could do that." Keanu tilted his head slightly. "You didn't know you could fight back." She thought about it. He was right. All her life, she had taken the quiet route, ignored the whispers, lowered her gaze, let people decide her worth for her. But not tonight. Keanu glanced around, then nodded toward a small balcony overlooking the city. "Come on," he said. "It's getting a little loud in here." Lily followed him outside. The cool night air brushed against her skin, and for the first time in hours, she felt at peace. The city stretched below them, a sea of lights flickering against the dark sky. Keanu leaned against the railing, looking out. "You handled that better than most people I know." Lily let out a small laugh. "I was terrified." He chuckled. "Didn't look like it." She sighed, running a hand through her hair. "It's just... for so long I thought if I stayed quiet, if I didn't push back, people would just leave me alone." She exhaled. "But they never do they?" Keanu nodded slowly. "Some people need to feel bigger by making others feel smaller." He paused, watching the city lights flicker. "But the moment you stop giving them that power, they lose control." Lily looked down at her hands. The same hands that had spent years creating, painting, dreaming. She had never thought of them as strong. But maybe they were. She turned to him. "Have you ever dealt with people like that?" Keanu smirked. "More than you'd think." Lily hesitated. "How did you deal with it?" He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I stopped asking for permission." Lily swallowed. The words hit deep. He glanced at her, a knowing look in his eyes. "So what's next for you?" She thought about it. A few days ago, she wouldn't have had an answer. But now... "I keep going," she said. "I keep creating, keep putting myself out there, and if people don't like it..." She shrugged. "That's their problem." Keanu grinned. "Now that's the attitude." Lily laughed softly, looking back out at the city. "I think I finally get it now." Keanu nodded. "Good." He pushed off the railing, slipping his hands into his pockets. "You should get back in there. It's your night, after all." She exhaled, but this time it wasn't nerves. It was excitement. "Yeah," she said, a smile forming on her lips. "I think it is." She turned to walk back inside, but before she did, she looked at him one last time. "Thank you for everything." Keanu's smile was warm, genuine. "You did this on your own, Lily." He nodded toward the ballroom. "I just made sure you saw it." Lily stepped back inside the gala, not as someone trying to fit in, but as someone who knew exactly who she was. As she moved through the room, people turned to her with admiration, respect. The girl who once doubted herself had become the center of attention. Not because of what she wore, but because of the confidence she carried. And this time, she didn't need anyone's permission to be here.